Hey guys, this is Nick here, aka Chum Wizards, and today I'm going to be taking you through creating Outlier number 18, Juggalo. So I typically like to start on the eyes with these outliers, and it gives me a sense of what the overall character is going to be like and sets the mood for what I'm doing. And then from there, as you can see, I have a couple reference photos that I use this time. Never be afraid to use reference if you don't know exactly what you're trying to achieve. It'll help you out in the long run. So I'm using that top image there to kind of set my braids, and then I was experimenting what they look like. And then I started on the pants, just throwing in the basic shape and the crinkles for the bottom, and then approximating the twist where it is. Moving on to the shirt, you see I have my wrapping lines in there, and I always do that just to try and check my volumes and at least get as close as possible. Then I moved on. The common sign of the Juggalo is obviously the facial paint, so that I started on that, added kind of what the facial expression itself is going to be like. Moved on to the necklace here, and you can see with the sketch I try and move very quickly and not get really stuck on any one particular thing. This keeps me from getting bogged down. So then I continue to add a bit more facial details in the painting. Add some eyeshadow in there and move on to the necklace. Again, I'm moving quickly because I'm not adding my detail here. I'm just trying to figure out the basics of what I want. Then I move on to the lining. Now with the line work, as I've said before, I typically try and just follow along with the sketch unless and if there's something extreme that I'm not happy with, and then I'll go back, such as the hair here. Obviously I'm not going to do those hard lines. Unfortunately, at this point I actually have to go in and do every single little detail. It makes for a tedious task, but eventually I get it all finished and it adds to the overall look of the project. Fortunately, since I'm not actually doing this in real time, we can go ahead and speed this up so that way you don't have to sit here and view the entire thing while I do it. With the hair, I try and not allow myself to be too rigid because hair itself is a very flexible thing. So I allow myself to just kind of fill in the basic shape and not be too precise about it. So finishing up with the hair, do the mouth, add a couple little details, and the necklace, I work really quickly here. I'm not worried about being too precise because these little details don't matter. So on the shirt, you'll see here how important wrapping lines can actually be. If you don't have the wrapping lines properly, you don't show the exact shape and how it actually bends around the character. One of the great things about doing cartoon art is you don't have to be precise. Small squiggles can represent what you would see in real life. So I like to take advantage of that a lot in my art. And you'll see that certain things, they don't have an actual accurate fold, but I put it in anyway. Here on the medallion, you'll see I wasn't happy with where the skull was actually placed, so I decided to go back and kind of shift it over, and that's part of what the inking process is about. The initial sketch was just to get where you're going. And then we move on to the coloring process, which again, I like to color in everything myself, as opposed to using the fill tool, which is, yes, a very, very quick way of doing things if you're trying to be efficient with your time. But I enjoy coloring things for myself simply because you get to actually, be kind of a kid again. And it helps me check for any places that I might want to go back and change, or places where I might have missed some of the ink that I needed to erase from a specific layer. And once the coloring process is complete, then I go in and I do my textures on a different layer and my shading. And then you come up with something that looks like this. And then finally, when it's all finished, you have your final makeup that you add and your Juggalo is complete. Thanks guys for watching, and if you enjoyed this Chum Wizards video, feel free to check out our shorts where we have more time lapses.